there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a card wallet with Snap Fasteners. So I've wrote down all the measurements right here. So it's going to be 9 inches tall by 4.5 inches wide. And I recommend that you use fabric that is multi-directional because we're going to be folding the kind of closure onto itself. So you don't want anything that is obviously upside down. Also, I recommend that you cut out 2 inches by 2 inch square of stabilizer because we are going to be using snap fasteners and we just want to stabilize that fabric so it doesn't kind of tear. So you're going to need an external piece of fabric, an internal piece of fabric, you're going to need some batting and the snap fasteners for the closure of the card wallet. I have all of my sections cut, so I'm going to put these 2 fabrics right sides together. And then I'm going to grab both of these together and I'm going to put it on top of the batting. So right sides together just means that you are going to put both printed sides of your fabric together. So either you call it pretty sides together, right sides together, you're going to put them both together like that. I also like to mark my central line, so I'm just going to turn this over and just gently press on both sides. So I know exactly where that center portion is, and I'm going to mark that down with a friction pen. I'm going to take my stabilizer, one side fusible, and I'm going to place it down. I am going to adhere that to the wrong side of the fabric on both the top and the bottom. So I've probably going to attach it just about 1/4 inch from the edge. I'm going to clip everything into place. Then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine. We're going to sew this into place because we're going to be pulling it right sides out, but we want to leave a gap so we can pull it right side through. I never ever start at the end here because you won't get a perfect corner if you do that. So always kind of start here and go round, or start here and go round. You want to leave about at least 3 inches as you're doing this. Before I start sewing this, I want to make sure that the top of my flap is curved, and I have this ruler. It does 1.5 inch curved edge and a 1 inch curved edge. I'm going to do it 1.5 inches. At this point in time, it really doesn't matter which side you choose because they're both exactly the same. So I am going to line this up to this edge and this to this edge, and I'm going to mark out my curve on my coin pouch, and then I'm going to flip it over, line that back up again and do the same. And now I can take my good pair of fabric scissors and just cut around. For this video, I'll be using the Baby Lark L-Tear. In the top thread, I have a regular Gutermann sewing thread. I have a 9014 Microtex needle. That's what I use all the time. And I also have the 1/4 inch foot with guide on my machine. So I'm starting on this section, and whenever you start, you always want to reverse over your stitches. So I'm just going to go forward, and then I'm going to reverse, and then I'm going to continue on around. My Baby Lark L-Tear has a pivot key, so every time I stop on the presser foot, the actual foot lifts up, or if I stop on the accelerator, should I say, the presser foot lifts up, and I can continue on sewing without going to the back of the machine in order to lift that up and down. So I'm going to go around, and then when it comes to them curves, just slow down a little bit. And this is where that pivot key really excels. I don't have to keep stopping and lifting that up and down. And then we're going to sew right down here, and we're just going to stop before we get to the end. About 3 inches, always reverse over them stitches to lock them in, otherwise they'll start pulling away when you turn it inside out. So just cut that off. Comes with a cut off feature on this machine, and we are going to take this over to the sewing table. Another thing that I like to do is get my pinking shears out, and then just around this corner I like to cut, so it's giving me that zigzag cut without me having to snip 1,000 snips going around the corner. There we go. And I just do that at the top of the pouch, and this is what the scissors look like, these pinking shears. And at the bottom here, I always just like to snip in. And then you can always get rid of these tails here. So you can have this opening. I'm going to turn it right sides out. And take your time pushing this curve around. And also get a chopstick or something and point out these corners. And then you're going to go to your iron and you're going to press all this down nicely and make sure that you line this section up. Just take your time to make sure it looks absolutely fabulous. And then what you're going to do is we're going to stitch all the way around here, and then that will then close this opening up. You are going to fold this flap in 2 3/4 right there, and then I put a card in just to see where my card was, but about 2 3/4 is perfect. So you may want to just grab a wonder clip or 2 and just clip that into place. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and what I like to do is just sew right over that stitch that is already been stitched, and that'll stitch the front and the back together. I do recommend you go forward and back a few times over that opening here, because you're going to be going in and out of this quite a lot, so you want to make sure that it doesn't unthread itself. So the next thing I'm going to do is fold this flap over, and I'm going to line it up. So I'm going to figure out, where do I want my snap closure to be? What I also like to do at this point is to press it with an iron. We can also open it up, fold it in half, and find that central point, and then mark it with a friction pen. So I'm going to go about 1 inch down. I'm going to get a hole punch for fabric. I'm going to figure out where that spot was, and I'm going to create a hole. And then I'm going to fold it back down, and where that hole is, I am going to make a mark. Then I'm going to open it up. That's where my mark is. So I am going to create another hole right there. Now I'm going to get my snap fasteners here. There's always a male and a female side, and this is my heavy duty tool to apply them. Okay, this is one of our snap fastener parts here. And this is the other side of our snap fastener. This part here goes on the external side. So I'm just going to show you here. That goes like that. And then I'm going to open this up. And then this part here will rest on top. You then get the tool and you lay the flat bit on the flat part, and then without me trapping my finger, then we can press into place. Now you're going to take this part here and put it inside. And put this part here on top. And then using the tool again, you're going to press it into place. And this is the finished card wallet. So we can put our cards in there and close it up. And then open it again. I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.